are directed to cultural competencies and the underserved communities, Black and Brown communities in particular. And so you probably don't have time to answer that, but through my chairman, I would like to ask for kind of an update of where your agency is, where your institute is with regard to those issues, measuring from where you were to where you are now, and how you plan to move forward. And I thank you for this time, and I thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I yield back.
Ms. Herrera-Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Tabak, a couple of questions. And I do think, you know, in light of the chair, ranking member's comments, just overall, the NIH it's done some great things. I'm a big supporter. I think most of us have been big supporters in terms of increasing your funding because we believe in what you're doing. But it has been a little challenging in the last couple of years when there were times when I do think the image has been called into question. I'm not talking about crackpots, I'm talking about average Americans who maybe don't get to see up close and personal what's happening, and they get conflicting information. And one of the areas where I think it would be possibly helpful, I found last year, I followed some reports that genomic data, early genomic sequence from Wuhan, China, were deleted from the sequence read archive. And we worked to get to the bottom of this, and I think partially just because there were concerns, rational concerns, that the Chinese Communist Party had something to do with this, and where's the information? I wanted to see what, with regard to the sequence read archive, you're doing to secure it from those types of either truly harmful things, or maybe it's an image thing, but what are you doing in that space?
There's no question that the communication that we had about this sequence archive, sequence read archive, could have been improved. I freely admit that. If I may, the archive never deleted the sequence. It just did not make it available for interrogation.
So you have the information still?
We have the information.
So it wasn't, the way it was reported is it was pulled out, the early genomic sequencing was removed by a Chinese researcher.
So anybody who submits to the sequence read archive is allowed to ask for it to be removed, and that investigator did do that, but we never erase it.
Oh, so you don't have the information anymore?
We do. We never erase the information. We keep it.
So they were able to withdraw public viewing of it?
Public viewing, that's correct.
Okay, so researchers can apply to the NIH and get the information from you?
And so in the way that it was originally eliminated from public view, it was withdrawn, and that's the most difficult for people to access. The error that was made, and we found this out after a review of all of our processes, was it should have been suppressed. The distinction being that if it's withdrawn, it is kept archivally on a tape drive, old technology, but that's how it's done. But when it is withdrawn, it can still be accessed by accession number, and so researchers are able to access that
So the information is still there?
That's correct.
That's
So
helpful.
information was never lost.
I wanted to switch gears really quickly. I mean, I could spend a lot of time on that one, but on to overuse and opioids and overdose deaths. In Washington State, just in 2021, there was a 66% increase in drug-related overdose deaths, and more than half of these are due to fentanyl. I wanted to, your testimony talked about working on research to decrease overdose deaths. I wanted to see if you could explain how the 23 budget request is going to help you reduce that.
If I may, I'd like to turn to Dr. Volkov, please.
Sure.
Thanks very much for that question. And the budget is going to help us accelerate research in this area that is becoming very, very challenging. And it's become challenging because the complexity of overdose deaths actually has increased and made worse during the COVID pandemic. Initially, we started with research investments to improve the treatment of patients that suffer from pain so that they would not be given opioids when they didn't need it. Then it shifted to heroin, and then it shifted to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. And now fentanyl is being used to mix with cocaine, methamphetamine, and illicitly manufactured pills. So we need to diversify our scientific projects to go beyond interventions for prevention that just focus on pain. Very important, crucial, but not sufficient. We need to expand into addressing the needs and vulnerabilities of individuals that may be exposed by accident to these substances. So it goes a range of interventions, from very much implementation sciences to services research, and at the same time doing the research that can give us better medications to reverse those overdoses. Because naloxone is not so effective in this new era of very powerful drugs.
That's helpful, and I will yield back. I have more questions for Dr. Bianchi if we end up doing a second round. I don't know, Madam Chair. Yield to you. Thank you.
Ms. Franco.
Thank you, and thank you to our panel today. I got a question. I think it's for Dr. LOUiE, but whoever can answer it, I'd be happy to hear from you. My question really has to do with patient navigator programs, which help low-income patients and those in underserved communities access early screening, diagnosis, and treatment. And I want specifically in terms of cancer. Can you tell me how the Cancer Moonshot program will invest in patient navigator services to ensure access to any of the new treatment?
Congresswoman, thanks for this question. Patient navigation is one of several aspects of trying to provide optimal treatment for patients with cancer, which has become much more complicated in recent years, in part because of its success. In terms of approval of patient navigation, this is beyond the NIH, but we conduct implementation research to try to optimize patient navigation, along with many other aspects of trying to help people have appropriate and full access to cancer care. This includes doing patient care at home, changing radiotherapy, for example, shortening the duration of radiotherapy, and trying to look at patient navigation in the context of this real overall issue of how to provide optimal care to virtually everyone in the United States who is unfortunate enough to develop cancer.
Well, thank you, and I hope you will work closely with whatever agency it is that directs the navigators, because obviously you can have all kinds of new developments, but if we're not able to get a